YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and this is going to be part 2 of all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of January. Thank you for watching part 1 if you did, so let's get straight into part 2. First up, from Full Moon, I picked up The Ginger Dead Man 2. Not had a chance to watch this one yet, but I'm looking forward to doing so. The first Ginger Dead Man is very much a guilty pleasure of mine. I really enjoyed that one. It's good, silly fun. So I'm hoping this one will be in the same vein. So yeah, always enjoy seeing this crazy Ginger Dead Man doing his thing. Next up, I picked up Graveyard Alive. Don't know much about this one. I think it's like a black and white indie movie of this nurse. And it's like zombies and things like that. So yeah, it looks a bit of a quirky one. I will check it out soon and see what it's like. But if you've seen this one, let me know what I can expect. Next up, I picked up The Harbinger. This was a good movie. Different, kind of. This is a woman. She gets a call from an old friend who is having really bad nightmares. And they are even like altering her perception of reality. She doesn't know what's real or what's not. So she goes over to stay with her and finds that she starts to experience these strange kind of mind-bending nightmares. And they all centre around this mysterious figure on the cover here with this like bird face. Yeah, really mysterious stuff. I liked it. It's kind of slow burn, and then it starts to build up, and it has a lot of kind of sort of modern horror jump scares, which kind of let it down a little bit, but I enjoyed the whole thing. But yeah, it's kind of mysterious, kind of ambiguous. I didn't get the ending. I didn't get what they were trying to get at with the very last scene in this movie. But I did appreciate the effort. It was a little bit different. It was a movie that's filmed back in COVID times, so they're all really like trying to isolate and wear masks and that kind of thing. And it was like, gosh, that was a crazy reminder of that time. But yeah, The Harbinger, a little bit different, and I enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, I picked up High School of the Dead, which is an anime series. So it is just a high school that gets overrun by zombies, and a few of the students are like fighting back and killing zombies and things like that. It's pretty good, pretty gory in places. Kind of weird. I do like anime, but I don't always get it. With anime, I'm a bit like, sort of like an old person who doesn't quite get young people's culture. And I'm a bit like that with anime. I don't always get what they do with it. But I appreciate some of it. I like the animation. Some of the zombies and the gore and that was pretty good in this one. Haven't watched it all yet, but yeah, I keep putting the odd episode on here and there when I've got time. So yeah, if you like your anime, I'm pretty sure you'd like High School of the Dead. Next up, from Kino, I picked up Highway to Hell. This is a pretty crazy one. This is a guy who, his girlfriend gets like kidnapped by this demonic cop and taken to hell, which is pretty much like this desert wasteland, and he has to try and like get her back. But it's very imaginative. There's a lot going on in this. It's quite random in places, and yeah, he's just going through like this hell underworld where there's just weird characters and things going on. It was a pretty fun film. It's got a couple of pretty good creatures in this one that I appreciated. Not one that I personally went crazy for, but it is entertaining and you kind of never know where it's going next. So yeah, a pretty imaginative one from the 90s. Yeah, one that doesn't really get mentioned all that much, so good to finally check this one out. Next up, I picked up Hobs End, which sounds like a pretty good like horror thriller kind of thing. This woman, she's like a widow, her husband's deceased, and from what I understand, this guy comes along who's stranded or something, and she lets him in. She lets him in, and he has like a striking resemblance to her husband, but it is a horror film, so I'm sure it goes pretty dark. But yeah, I am going to watch this one soon because it sounds pretty intriguing. So yeah, hopefully this one will be good. Next up, from Severin, I picked up a pretty nice box set from them, House of Psychotic Women. This is 4 movies, Identikit, I Like Bats, Footprints, and The Other Side of the Underneath, which sounds pretty interesting. These are all movies centred around kind of psycho women. Gotta say, they don't come across as movies that I immediately want to put on and start watching, but I will check them out at some point. I am kind of interested in, I think it's Footprints, because I'm sure I heard this is one of Elizabeth Taylor's very few horror films. I'm sure I read that. So if that's the case, that'll be an interesting watch. But yeah, House of Psychotic Women, certainly a nice box set from Severin. There's unboxings of this on YouTube if you want to see it. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some kind of hidden gems within this one. Next up, I picked up a documentary on Stephen King movies called King on Screen. So this is a sit-down interviews with various filmmakers and people from the world of cinema who talk about Stephen King movies and the ones they like and the ones that have had an impact on them over the years and in their career. So people like Mick Garris and Frank Darabont and people like that, people from the world of literature as well. So this was really good, very interesting, cool to hear people talk about various Stephen King movies, and yeah, taught me a few things I didn't know. Didn't feature Stephen King himself, which I think was a missed opportunity. And this is such a lovingly made, well put together documentary. It's strange that they didn't manage to get Stephen King to contribute anything himself. But other than that, this was an enjoyable documentary. Next up, I picked up Knock at the Cabin. I didn't fancy this when it came out. I remember seeing it was on at the cinema and didn't fancy going to see it. And I read a few reviews and it still didn't appeal to me. So I wasn't really fussed on picking this one up. But I saw this really cheap on eBay. It was like single figures for a Blu-ray with a slipcase. So I thought I'll get it. And I will watch it at some point. But let me know if you've seen this one. Is it worth the watch? Did you enjoy it? Be interested to know what you think of Knock at the Cabin. Like I say, I will check it out at some point, but I don't know, it's just this one isn't jumping out at me much. Next up from Saturn's Core, I picked up Mail Order Murder, which is a documentary about Wave Productions. These were a little studio in New Jersey who made really trashy shot on video horror films. So it's a story of kind of how they came to be and the movies that they made. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. I've seen similar documentaries on like really low budget shot on video filmmaking, and it's always interesting, and I'm always surprised actually how much like work and dedication and people's own money goes into these productions, because they do look like there is nothing behind them, but there is actually a lot of love and time that goes into them. So it kind of gives you a different appreciation on these kind of forgotten shot on video movies. So yeah, I'll check this one out soon. I'm looking forward to seeing what this one's like. Next up from, this is Wild Eye, but I think the Blu-ray is a horror pack exclusive. But this is Model Hunger, which is Lynn Lowry, who is this like aging kind of failed model, and she's kind of a bit crazy, and she can't let go of the fact that her modelling career didn't take off. So she captures like beautiful young women and kind of tortures them and goes a bit Texas Chainsaw Massacre on them. It's a pretty enjoyable film. It's okay. There's not much else goes on in it, but I did have fun with this one. Some pretty quite nasty, torturing moments. Good to see Lynn Lowry in a leading role. I've not seen her for many years, so it was nice to see her get something to do. So yeah, not too bad. One of the better movies I've seen from Wild Eye recently. Next up, I've got some extreme shock horror stuff, maybe, I'm not sure. This is Mondo Shock. This is from Wild Eye, and is like a modern Mondo documentary that purports to be like how they did it in the 60s and 70s. But I've seen a number of these low budget modern Mondo documentaries, and they're all pretty fake and quite boring and just a little bit silly. So this is Wild Eye, so I can't imagine them being all that much different, to be honest. So yeah, if it's got some interesting real life stuff, then we will see, but I'm not expecting too much or nothing too extreme from this one. I think it might be a bit of a dud, to be honest, but I'll check it out. I can't resist something called Mondo Shock with a skull on the front, so yeah, I'll watch this one soon. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up their 4K release of Mother's Day. I enjoyed this one. This was a pretty good kind of backwoods slasher. There's these three girls and they go camping in the woods, and they're sort of terrorised and stalked by these two kind of hillbilly guys and their elderly mother, which was a little bit different for a horror film. Don't see too many scary old ladies in the films that I watch, but there's one in this one. So yeah, pretty kind of standard stuff. People running around the woods and being chased and things like that, but I enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, pretty good movie. Alright, next up I picked up Rob Zombie's The Munsters, and really didn't know what to expect from this one. Didn't know how Rob Zombie would handle the subject matter of the Munsters, because he has a very kind of distinct style which really, to me, doesn't go with how the Munsters was at all. But I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I had such a good time with this one. I think it absolutely nailed the look and feel of a Munsters movie. This one kind of explores how Lily and Herman Munster met. So a little bit of a prequel to the Munsters. And I just thought it was a really fun film. It was very charming. The colours in this film were beautiful. Lots of like rich greens and purples and things like that. It did kind of hark back to the show. It had a few nods to that. It had an old-fashioned feel to it, but looked really good. It was funny in places, and yeah, I just had a lot of fun watching this one. I really enjoyed it. And credit to Rob Zombie, because he's done something very different to any of the other films he's made before this. It wasn't like a Rob Zombie film, which I think worked for the film really well. But I put this in the same category as like Beetlejuice and the Addams Family. It's that kind of sort of funny, colourful kind of horror comedy. So yeah, The Munsters, I was pleasantly surprised and really enjoyed it. And as I say, well done to Rob Zombie. He made a much better job of this than what I thought he would. Next up from Full Moon, I picked up Murder Cycle. It's a movie that looks and sounds pretty cool. It's not that great, to be honest. It's a bunch of soldiers who are like stalked by this motorcycle guy, kills a few of them off. Yeah, it was okay. Not a lot going on in this one. They could have like beefed up the movie a bit more, but they probably didn't have the budget to do so. So yeah, it was all right. I've kind of forgot most of it already, which is pretty an indictment on how good it was. So yeah, not one I'd rush to go out and see, if I'm honest. Next up from Umbrella, I picked up Night of Terror, which is a very kind of standard, just real like grindhouse kind of movie with this guy chasing and terrorising this girl in the field somewhere. He like takes her to a house, and yeah, it's all a bit kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre-y. But if you like kind of low budget grindhouse filmmaking, you'll probably like this one. It comes with another film, Inner the Damned. I haven't watched that one yet, but yeah, as I say, if you like your lowbrow, low budget grindhouse movies, you'll probably get something from Night of Fear. It wasn't too bad. Next up, I picked up The Nun 2. I really wanted to like it. I do love the nun character. I think she is fantastic, and I really like kind of the old-fashioned kind of Vatican feel of the story and the settings in this film. I gotta say, I was really disappointed. This one just really fell flat. Kind of lazy horror film making, just the same sort of tired tropes and jump scares. The nun didn't get that much screen time either. She's in it towards the end, but I was watching the film, there's large periods of it where I thought, where's the nun? Which was kind of disappointing. So yeah, when she's on screen towards the end, it's okay, but yeah, disappointing, man. Flat, I would say. And I really wanted to like this one. So yeah, it's a shame. Next up, I picked up The Outwaters. Oh my word, this was hard to get through. Not in a good way. It's like a found footage film where these kind of hippie musicians go out into the desert to film a music video. But it all starts to get really weird. And it starts out really slow, just them messing around in the desert. And they start to hear these strange noises at night, and it starts to get a bit bloody and a bit gory. But it just becomes incomprehensible. Like, you can't tell what's going on. The camera's all over the place. It's out of focus. It keeps cutting back on itself. The narrative of this one completely dissolves. And by kind of halfway through, I just had absolutely no idea what was going on. It kind of gave me Skinamarink vibes, and if you know anything about Skinamarink, that is a horrible thing. So yeah, I didn't enjoy this one at all, and I started to get a bit frustrated towards the end because it was just being so weird and so incomprehensible. It was like reduced to just a few weird images and out of focus camera shots. So yeah, not a movie that I enjoyed, unfortunately. Okay, got a bit of an oldie next from 1945, I believe. The Picture of Dorian Gray. Really looking forward to checking this one out. I like the story behind this one of the guy who has the portrait, and he doesn't age, but I think he sells his soul in order for that to happen. So yeah, hopefully this one will be a good one. Got a young Angela Lansbury in this one, so yeah, hopefully it'll be a good one, and always nice to get a bit of classic horror in the collection. Next up, I picked up Pig Killer, another one I'm looking forward to watching. This one's based on a true story of a guy in like Texas or some rural area that killed people off over the series of a number of years until like the FBI caught him, and it's the story of him. It's Jake Busey who plays the killer in this, so I'm sure he'll give a good performance, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what this one's like. And again, another one I'm really looking forward to. I've got to get some of these movies watched. This is Project Wolf Hunting, which is about, I think it's like a bunch of convicts on this ship, and I think they break out, they take over the ship, but something on board is even worse, and that's all I know. I'm trying not to hear too much about this one because it sounds really intriguing, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. I do want to get around to watching this one. I will watch it soon, and yeah, if it's as good as what I've heard it is, I'm pretty sure I'll have a blast with this one. Next up from Severin, I picked up Raiders of the Living Dead. So, not a good movie. Can't say this is a good movie at all, but I did enjoy it for what it was. This movie is the result of about 3 or 4 failed films that they cobbled together to make one movie. So it is all over the place. There's all sorts going on in this one. There's like these people raiding this factory. There's a kid that's invented like a laser gun out of some record player. And then there's a guy going around who keeps getting attacked by zombies. But they're very incidental in this film. It's not a zombie film. It really is just a smorgasbord of random things happening. And as a viewer, you're trying to establish some kind of narrative. But it is a challenge. But it's got its charm. I enjoyed it for what it was. I mainly like the bits with the kid and the laser gun. They were my kind of favourite aspects of this movie. The zombies, when they're in it, do actually look pretty good. But again, I can't say it's a zombie film. They literally just kind of walk into the film randomly and attack this guy. And then he kind of just gets on with his business doing other things. It's a really weird film. So, I don't know. If you like weird thrown together 80s films with cool looking zombies hanging around, you might like Raiders of the Living Dead. But as I say, I can't tell you it's a good film. It does have a really good song at the beginning of the movie, which I think they wrote for the film. I will give them credit. It's a good song that they came up with. That's probably the best thing this film has going for it. But yeah, a bit of a mess, this one. Next up, I picked up another of the Resident Evil animated movies. This is Resident Evil Vendetta. These films just seem to go on forever. I think I've got one more to go, which is Death Island. And then I have currently all the Resident Evil films that there are, but they do keep churning these out, so I do expect more. But I'll watch this one at some point. I'm sure it'll be okay for what it is. I don't mind Resident Evil based films and cartoons, so yeah, I'll probably enjoy this one. Next up, I picked up The Retaliators. Gotta say, I don't know anything about this one. I just picked it up, so I'm sorry I can't tell you anything about this. So if you've seen this one, let me know what you think. But yeah, The Retaliators, just one that I got, and I will check it out soon. Next up from Severin, I picked up Saint Bernard. All I know about this one is it's very weird, so I'm bracing myself for some weirdness with this one. I don't even know if it's about the dog or what, but apparently it's very random, and there's some crazy things go on in this one, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure if I'll like it. I'll see how weird it is. But yeah, if you've seen Saint Bernard, let me know how you found it. Next up from Saturn's Core, I picked up Scrapbook. Really good to see this one get a release. I wanted to check this out for quite a while. Again, not had a chance to watch it yet. I've heard this one's pretty strong stuff. This is quite a nasty film, but it's all kind of shot on video, so I'll have to see what it's like. Admittedly, I've not been in the right mood to watch this one yet, but I will check it out and see what it's like. But I have read a few times that it's quite a tough watch, so we'll see. So yeah, if you've seen Scrapbook, let me know what you thought of it. Next up from MVD, I picked up Shadow Builder. This one I really enjoyed. I thought this was a really good, quite underrated film from the 90s. This one is about this like demon that's summoned, and he goes to this little town. He wants this kid for some reason. I can't remember why. The kid is like key to what this demon devil creature wants. But there is a priest in tow, played by Michael Rooker, who's trying to stop the demon creature. And just like weird kind of supernatural things start happening in this town, and people start getting killed off as this creature leaves a trail trying to get to this kid. But I really like this one. I thought it was a good film. Michael Rooker's fantastic in it. He's like both like a priest but a badass at the same time. He gives a really good performance, and yeah, it's a film that I don't hear many people talk about, but I thought it was really good, and yeah, probably deserves a bit more recognition than what it gets. So yeah, Shadow Builder I thought was a good one from the 90s. Next up from Severin, I picked up The Shadowed Mind. This is another one I don't know much about. I made an order with Severin and just put in a few things just to get them while they were kind of on sale or something. So this is another one. I've just sort of grabbed it, and I will check it out, but I don't know much about it. So yeah, I will put it on soon and see what it's like. Next up, I picked up the Shark Attack pack. So yeah, definitely my kind of movies right here. It's got 3 films on it. 2 films, Shark Kill and Shark, which are just some very low budget TV shark movies. But the one on this that I really want is Great White Death, which I'm very excited to watch. It's actually classed as a Mondo film, a Mondo documentary about sharks and shark attacks. Narrated by Glenn Ford, I believe. So I'm going to see what it's like. I don't know how great it will be. But yeah, a Mondo film about shark attacks. I'm definitely interested in seeing that. So I'm going to check that one out very soon. But yeah, something like a shark attack pack like this, I definitely can't resist. Next up from Severin, I picked up their 4K release of Spider Labyrinth, which is like a forgotten Italian horror film from the 80s. I actually thought this was pretty good. Most of it plays out a bit like a mystery kind of thing. This guy has to go to Budapest, I think, to find like a missing professor. But there's obviously something not quite right, and people were like a bit weird around him, and there's like whispers of this strange cult that this professor may or may have not been involved in. It's a bit twisty turning. At some points I did wonder what was going on. But on the whole it's quite good. It's got some quite cool deaths in it. And there is like a spider monster in it, which just, yeah, made my evening. Which I really enjoyed. And at the end you've got a really good practical effects monster. A little bit like The Thing. It reminded me of The Thing a little bit. Which I really like. So as I say, on the whole, this is like a weird mystery horror thriller, but you get some really good practical effect monster moments at the end. So yeah, Spider Labyrinth, not amazing, but a film that I did enjoy. From Culture Shock, I picked up Streets of Death, which is another shot on video kind of slasher. I think someone's going around killing women on the street, so I'll check this one out soon. It's really just fun to see these really trashy shot on video movies get like these nice releases. I can't resist picking them up. I'm never too much in a rush to watch the movies because they're not great, but the additions they come in are always fantastic, and this is another one. So yeah, Streets of Death, I will check it out soon. Next up, I picked up They, which sounds like a really good kind of creepy mystery horror film. Presented by Wes Craven, which is quite appealing. So yeah, I'll watch this one soon and check it out. I am interested in seeing this one. I'm intrigued as to how this one unfolds. So yeah, I found this really cheap, so I thought I'd pick it up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it. Next up is The Toy Box, which I really enjoyed. This one doesn't have very good reviews online, but I liked it a lot. This is this woman, and her and her boyfriend go back to a family home in Norfolk in the UK. And they are just such a dysfunctional family. They are like just horrible to each other. Like they all kind of don't like each other. They've got weird secrets and skeletons in the closet. And it's just, they have like a dinner table and they're just having digs at each other. And usually I don't like it when a horror film focuses too much on the people and the family drama. But this one, I just couldn't stop watching. It was so uncomfortable. Like the notion of being around these people. And then there's also this curse going on with like a witch or something, as well as that. And that's kind of explored a little bit. But yeah, man, just the EastEnders drama of this was actually quite captivating. And I really like the Norfolk setting. It was a very kind of quaint, quirky British film, and I really liked it for that. So yeah, as I say, it's got very bad reviews, but I did like it for what it was. I did get quite a lot of enjoyment from this one. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up the Untold Story 2. So, nothing to do with the first film, in title sequel only. But man, I absolutely love this one. I love this one more than the first movie. Untold Story, it's quite an infamous film, but I didn't go crazy for it. But this one, I thoroughly enjoyed. This one, it's this guy, he works in like this little meat restaurant on the street, him and his wife. And his wife's awful. She's horrible to him. She disrespects him, cheats on him. Yeah, she's awful. And her cousin flies into town to stay with them for a while. And the husband and the cousin, like, immediately kind of bond with each other and get on really well and eventually get together. And you're actually quite happy for them because the wife is so awful. Yeah, you're kind of happy for them at first. But this cousin chick, she all sweet and innocent and that kind of thing. But she isn't. And this movie gets really dark and really crazy. And this guy is just thrown into this gruesome, nasty situation that is like, oh my goodness. So, yeah, really, really good film. I thoroughly liked it. I didn't think I'd get that much from it because I wasn't too keen on the first one. I kind of just put this one on to pass some time and I was like, whoa. So yeah, Untold Story 2, I really liked it. I definitely recommend checking this one out. It's got some crazy dark moments to it. And yeah, man, that cousin woman, she's not what she seems. Next up, I picked up a fantastic documentary called VHS Godfather, which is the story of Mike Lee, who founded the VIPCO label here in the UK. If you're in the UK and you like horror movies, I'm sure you've heard of VIPCO. They released a bunch of horror films and video nasties in the 70s, 80s and 90s before kind of dying out and going out of business. But this is a story with Mike Lee and everyone involved in the company who talk about the rise and fall of VIPCO. Really, really fascinating stuff. There's a lot that they talk about in this. Some of it's quite sad actually, some of it's quite tragic. But on the whole, it's a really enjoyable, fascinating and very nostalgic documentary. Now, just the thing about this one, if you have Spookies from Vinegar Syndrome, if you have that Blu-ray, you have this documentary on the special features. I didn't realise, I already watched that when I got Spookies on Blu-ray and then bought this and realised it was the same documentary. So, double dipped on this one without realising. But it is nice to have this on its own as its own documentary. But yeah, if you are a fan of VIPCO, if you had any of those VIPCO videotapes back in the day like I did, this is a must-see documentary. It's really good. And last up for this update, I picked up Vial 21, which is like a shot-on-video monster movie. This guy is doing these experimentations and he's got this serum. He injects it into this homeless guy and it turns him into this monster here. So, not bad. As I say, it's shot on video, so really low budget, and the monster doesn't look very convincing, but it still kind of looks cool, and he ends up running around the city, messing people up and that kind of thing. So if you can take it for what it is and have kind of low expectations, this is quite a fun shot on video kind of monster movie. So yeah, I did get some enjoyment from Vial 21. So that's it, guys. That's part 2 of my January update. Feel free to let me know what you think of any of the movies that I picked up. Which ones you liked, which ones you didn't. And yeah, thank you for watching that long video. So yeah, thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for more videos.